Good evening, and welcome to the April 18th meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. Would you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner De Jesus.
Ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Leahy.
Chair Rossler,
Here.
Vice Chair Grimm,
Here.
Commissioner Aguilera, Commissioner DeJesus, Commissioner Hastings,
Here.
Commissioner Looney, Commissioner Savage,
Here.
Student Commissioner Childs, Student Commissioner Herrera.
Very good. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, Commissioners, is approval of the minutes from our April 4th meeting. If there are no changes to the agenda, can we hear a motion to approve? Commissioner Grimm,
So moved.
is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Hastings seconds. Please cast your vote. There we go. And lock it in. And the motion passes 5-1. Commissioner Savage abstained because he was absent at that meeting. All right, very good. Moving on, Ms. Chow, any changes to tonight's agenda?
Good evening, Chairman Rossler. No changes tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on our agenda is oral communications. This is a time that the commission sets aside for members of the public to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda. You would have had to fill out one of our speaker slips. I have none for oral communications. Anyone wishing to address the commission tonight? Very good. We will move on to our public hearings then. Our public hearing process is as follows. We will have a presentation from staff on the proposed item. Then we will afford the applicant a time to make a presentation, and then we will open it up for Planning Commission questions of staff and the applicant. When we complete that, I will open the public hearing. You will need to fill out a speaker slip to address the commission. I usually call them in the order that I receive them. Please print clearly so I'll have a halfway decent chance of pronouncing your name right. And then when everyone's finished speaking, I will close the public hearing, and that'll be the end of public testimony. We'll open it up to commissioner discussion and a decision. So our first item on public hearing tonight is the ARCO AM/PM on Melrose Drive. Mr. Mangasarian, I believe the staff report's yours.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Rossler, commissioners, staff, and members of the public. It is my pleasure to present to you tonight an application for a special use permit amendment for Melrose Petroleum, also ARCO AM/PM, at 600 Hacienda Drive, permit number P230027. Proposed project is for a special use permit amendment to a previously approved special use permit, Planning Commission Resolution number 2007-29, per planning case number PC08-078, Amendment 6, located at 600 Hacienda Drive. Request is to modify the hours of sale of alcoholic beverages for an ABC Type 20 off-sale beer and wine license from the existing hours, 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. each day of the week, to 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. each day of the week. No tenant improvements are requested or required for this permit. The following describes the application history related to the alcohol sales and the current special use permit for the project site. Applicant applied for a special use permit, but was denied per Planning Commission Resolution number 2002-21, and that was on July 16th, 2002. Applicant back then applied for a special use permit, but was also denied again per Planning Commission Resolution number 2003-29, and that was on November 18th, 2003. Planning Commission Resolution 2003 was appealed by the applicant to be reviewed by the City Council, but was also denied by the City Council at that time per City Council Resolution 2004-60, Amendment 4, on March 23rd, 2004. The current special use permit on site is a special use permit amendment to the previous denial, which was approved to allow for alcohol sales per Planning Commission Resolution number 2007-29, per Planning Case PC08-078, and that was approved by the Planning Commission back then on June 19th, 2007. The property is currently zoned C1 Commercial and has a general plan designation of GC, General Commercial. This is the existing site plan, and no changes are proposed to the site plan or tenant space at this time. The property is located in Sheriff's Beat District 312 and has a crime index of 147.5 of the citywide average for 2022. An index greater than 120% of the citywide average is considered a high crime beat area. Total number of Sheriff Department calls for service since September 5, 2022 is 6 total calls. Almost all calls were for homeless activity outside the business. An overconcentrated area, Census Tract 197.01, allows for up to 2 ABC off-sale licenses. There are 5 existing off-sale licenses in the vicinity, inclusive of the existing ARCO AM/PM. Those locations are the Costco Wholesale at 1755 Hacienda, CVS Pharmacy at 1631 South Melrose Drive, CVS Pharmacy at 635 South Melrose Drive, Albertsons Market at 1601 South Melrose Drive, and the current ARCO AM/PM at 600 Hacienda Drive. Findings for the special use permit amendment. The proposed use is consistent with the general plan and any applicable specific plan. The proposed use and the manner to be conducted is permitted in the applicable zone and will conform to applicable federal, state, and local laws or regulations. The site for the proposed use has a size that is sufficient to reasonably accommodate the planned activities and will be served by existing infrastructure and utilities. The design, location, size, and operating characteristics of the proposed use will be compatible with the existing and planned land uses in the vicinity. The proposed use at its location will provide the neighborhood and/or city with a service or facility that will contribute to its general welfare, and the proposed use and its operation will not be unduly detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare. Staff's recommendation is to adopt resolution approving the special use permit amendment for a change of hours of sale of alcoholic beverages for off-site consumption at 600 Hacienda Drive. That concludes staff's presentation. Applicant is also here for any questions you may have.
So the applicant does not have a presentation?
No presentation from the applicant.
Okay, very good. So then we will open it up to questions of the commission for staff or the applicant. Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, let's say that we approve this and then it becomes a problem from 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning that there's, problems. Do we have the ability to go back, bring it back to us, and then say, hey, we're going to cancel that out?
Yeah, we would bring it back to Planning Commission for review at that point if it were to become an issue.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else? The Sheriff's Department is okay with this now, if I remember reading that in the staff report. And we have updated the conditions of approval to our current standards from back when it was approved in 2007.
Correct.
Okay. Any indication from the applicant why an hour earlier?
So I can let the applicant address that, but it's also during the night shift or graveyard shift, or I believe I addressed it in the staff report. I forgot the term to be used. But at graveyard shift hours, when those people are getting off work at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., that's a place that they would most likely go to for their end of shift beverage purchases.
Okay, all right, I understand. Okay, very good. Any further comments from the commission? No? This is a public hearing. I have just speaker slips from the applicant. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the commission on this item? All right, I will close the public hearing and open it up to commissioner discussion. While you're thinking, let me chime in. In the past, there were day laborers that hung out along this area and homeless people in the creek bed, and so there was a real concern about allowing alcoholic sales. They were allowed to do this back in 2007, if I remember correctly. Seems to be operating without any problems. Usually I'm opposed to this type of an application because of the problems that could occur in the neighborhood. But the sheriff's okay with it, and we have an opportunity to update the conditions of approval to our current standards. So because of those two reasons, I'm okay with this. So anyway, anyone else have thoughts? Someone like to make a motion? Commissioner DeJesus.
About that. I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2023, granting an amendment to the previously approved special use permit as stated in the report.
Very good. Commissioner Grimm?
I'll second that motion.
All right, commissioners, it's been moved and second to approve the amendment. And cast your vote, please, and lock it in. And the motion passes unanimously of the commissioners present. So, very good. Moving on to our next public hearing, and we'll let staff have a moment here to switch out. A reminder that if you wish to address the commission on the Park Avenue apartments, you need to fill out a speaker slip. So, thank you. Mr. Ressler, your staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. The project before you tonight is a site development plan request for the Park Avenue Apartments project. The application number is P22-0266. The subject site is 2.91 acres, circular in shape, and is surrounded by Eucalyptus Avenue, Ocean View Drive, as well as Park Avenue. The site is currently developed with the new community church. Here's an aerial photograph of the site. Surrounding land uses include commercial and single-family residential to the northeast, single-family residential to the east, commercial to the south, as well as commercial to the west. The general plan land use designation for the site is mixed use. The coinciding zoning is a Downtown Vista specific plan, which is located in the historic downtown subdistrict. That subdistrict allows for mixed-use commercial as well as high-density residential with a maximum density of 40 dwelling units per acre. The project before you tonight, again, is a request for a site development plan. The applicant is proposing 176 apartment units on 2.91 acres, which equates to 60 dwelling units per acre. The applicant is requesting a density bonus as a result of providing 18 very low-income affordable units. The project includes open space amenities, parking, site improvements, as well as drainage improvements, wet and dry utilities, as well as associated infrastructure. In regards to recreational amenities, the project has been designed to provide a pool, spa, gym, seating areas, as well as a barbecue area. The state density bonus law does allow for 3 development concessions based on the affordability component of this project. The applicant is requesting 2 concessions from the development standards of the Downtown Vista specific plan. Those concessions include an increase in building height and a waiver of a required 10-foot building facade step back. The proposed site plan depicts a 4-story apartment building surrounding a multi-level parking garage, as well as landscape improvements surrounding the site. Vehicular access would be provided by a new 30-foot wide driveway that spans from Park Avenue to the parking garage entrance at the southwest corner of the project. In regards to parking, the state density bonus law allows for a parking calculation of 1 parking space for 1-bedroom units and 1.5 parking spaces for 2-bedroom units. Based on the unit count, the proposed project is required to have 211 parking spaces on site. The project provides, as designed, 246 parking spaces. The staff notes that the project also provides 44 on-street parking spaces surrounding the site. Staff notes that since this project does provide a minimum 11% total units as very affordable, and it is located with 1.5 mile from a major transit stop, the state density bonus law does allow the applicant to request a parking ratio of 1/2 parking space per unit, just as a note. In regards to landscaping, the site does provide 34% of the entire site dedicated to landscape improvements. The Downtown Vista specific plan requires a minimum of 5%. The proposed landscape plan does include native and non-native landscape plant materials, excuse me. In regards to amenities, the site plan indicates a pool courtyard on the east side of the project, a gathering courtyard on the north side of the project, a passive courtyard on the east, as well as a dog run courtyard on the southeast. In addition to the outdoor open space amenities, the project also has indoor amenities, including a clubhouse, fitness rooms, pet spa, and other small gathering spaces. Due to the drastic east-west slope of the site, the proposed project has been designed around a tiered grading approach, which utilizes the natural topography of the site. The first level of the development would include a first floor on the west side of the project. The second level would include the second floor on the west side of the project. The third level would include the third floor on the west side and the first floor on the east side of the project. And then the fourth level would be the fourth floor on the west side and the second floor on the east side of the building. Fifth level would be the roof of the west side of the project and the third floor of the east side of the building. And then ultimately, the sixth level would be the fourth level on the east side of the project. The proposed project would be 4 stories, a maximum height of 59 feet from the average natural grade of the site. The architectural design of the building reflects an Irving Gill architectural style. Building features include 3 complementary plaster finish colors, wood grain horizontal composite siding, decorative tower element, as well as storefront systems. Here's a perspective of the project taken from Eucalyptus Avenue. And here's a perspective of the project from South Indiana Avenue. Another perspective of the project from Park Avenue, as well as a perspective from Ocean View Drive. In regards to the general plan and the Downtown Vista specific plan, the general plan land use designation is mixed use, which allows a maximum density of 40 dwelling units per acre. The proposed project includes 176 units on 2.91 acres, which equates to 60 dwelling units per acre, due to the fact that the project applicant is requesting a density bonus pursuant to state law. In regards to the Downtown Vista specific plan development standards, the proposed project meets all applicable development standards except for two, which would be the building step back as I identified earlier, and the building height. The maximum building height in this area is 35 feet. The proposed project is proposing a maximum height of 59 feet pursuant to the requested concession. In regards to parking, the state density bonus law requires a minimum of 211 parking spaces. The project is providing 246 spaces, and the project also complies with open space and landscape requirements. This project went before the Planning Commission for an early design review on April 5th, 2022. Since the EDR session, staff and the applicant have worked on an effort to address the concerns raised during the EDR review. Those concerns include an increase in on-site parking. Since the EDR, the applicant has increased the on-site parking by 10 spaces. In addition to the additional parking spaces, the applicant has revised the unit mix in order to reduce the parking requirements for this project. In regard to building massing, the project has been redesigned to provide an increase in building setback for the fourth floor on the eastern elevation of the building facing the existing single-family neighborhood. Architectural compatibility with surrounding development. The project has been redesigned around a softer Irving Gill architectural style compared to the stark contemporary design that was originally proposed. In regards to building height, the applicant is requesting a concession from the Downtown Vista specific plan, maximum building height of 35 feet, pursuant to the state density bonus law. The proposed project is covered by the program environmental impact report that was prepared for the Downtown Vista specific plan, as well as the addendum number 1 for that specific plan. A consistency memorandum was prepared for the project. The conclusion of that memorandum indicates that the project will not have any new or substantially more severe significant impacts beyond those addressed in the program EIR or the addendum. All applicable mitigation measures for the program EIR will be enforced and applied on this project. The project mitigation monitoring and reporting program includes mitigation measures that address accumulative traffic impacts, and those traffic impacts would be assessed via the payment of the street and signal development impact fee, which is $4,991.34 per dwelling unit. With that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the attached resolution approving a site development plan to demolish the existing church on site and construct 176 apartment units on 2.91 acres located at 165 Eucalyptus Avenue. That concludes staff's report. The applicant, Greg Dracos, and his team is here, and they have provided staff with a presentation for the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Okay. If we can hear from the applicant now, please. Floor is yours.
Evening. Commissioners, members of the public, staff. My name is Greg Dracos. I'm the applicant. I'm with Cross Real Estate Investors, and thank you for taking the time to review the project here tonight. Mike covered most of the details of the project, but I did want to revisit some of the big ideas and some of the thought process behind how we looked at the design, and hopefully share how much thought and some of the ideas that went into the project. Before I do want to acknowledge that of all the cities we work in and of all the staff that we interact with, I have to say that Vista arguably has some of the most incredible planning staff, engineering staff, traffic of any city. The amount of collaboration and communication that's taken place to help get to a better project has been tremendous. And I say this sincerely, that at the end of the day, we find ourselves in a situation where, we're communicating with staff slowly, via every 30 or 45-day comment cycle. But in this case, the ability to sit down, meet with staff, meet with engineering, problem solve, and ultimately get to what we feel like is a better product for the city of Vista has been tremendous. So I just want to acknowledge staff for that, so thank you. Moving on to the project itself. So there are really three things that drove the design, the layout, how we approach this project from the very beginning. And those three things are the transitional area. The site itself, as Mike pointed out, sits in between, residential area and then ultimately the downtown business community. Two is the connectivity. The site as it sits today, and I think a lot of folks know this from just driving around the site, it's really an island. There's no way to get to it safely. There's no connectivity. There's no sidewalks. So we worked very, very closely with staff to figure out how do we bring this site, back into the fold to where it's easy for future residents, people in the neighborhoods behind the site itself to transition through this area from the residential side of the area to the downtown. And then finally, the visual corridor. The site is obviously, we sort of think of it, by virtue of its circular nature, as like a crown jewel here of downtown Vista. It's truly a phenomenal site. It's highly visible from the downtown, specifically looking south down Indiana and then looking to the east from South Santa Fe. So we wanted to make sure that we incorporated some very appealing visual elements into the site because it is so noticeable. This location overview simply articulates or shows what I mentioned about the transitional area and what Mike mentioned. And this is what our first approach was, is how do we make sure this site is connected, how it serves both sides of the community that it's facing. And this ultimately led to the concept of having effectively two different projects in one, two sites in one. We have two buildings, and the building on the west is really facing the downtown, kind of to the northwest, is really the activated, more commercial building. And then the building to the east is very much more residential in nature in terms of, one, the passive courtyards, step backs of the roof lines. It's set below grade, which we'll show a few more slides of what that looks like. And it's broken up a lot more. So really two sides to the building. Then, of course, we wanted to hide the parking in the center. So as I mentioned, transitional area, it's two buildings. We have the concept of active versus passive courtyards. For the connectivity, we'll be providing 3 new pedestrian crosswalks that connect the building to downtown. There's actually 2 that will be at Indiana, one of which is depicted on the site plan in front of you. There'll be new sidewalks surrounding the entire site. Obviously, new landscaping incorporated into that. We have 2 pedestrian plazas that hold public artwork, both as you're looking down Indiana and as you're looking to the east down Eucalyptus. We're incorporating new traffic calming measures. So we include curb pop-outs, new stop signs to make the area much safer from traffic with regard to pedestrian connectivity. And then, of course, new site and street lighting, which we heard from a number of people from the public is important for public safety if people are going to be walking at night. And then from the visual corridors, again, the public plazas hold public art. We have 2 sculptural elements, which, of course, yet to be decided what they'll look like, but you can see there on the left-hand side, coming in from Eucalyptus at the public plaza, we have 1 component of public art, and then from the north, coming down Indiana, another sculptural element that will be visible all the way from, Vista Village Pub or from Main Street there. And then, of course, we'll be adding a number of street trees. I think it's every 30 feet all the way around the site, as well as full landscaping in the courtyards, and then hiding the parking structure deliberately in the center of the building to eliminate any of kind of the visibility of just that structure. You'll just see the buildings. So we did, as I wrote a letter to everyone, hopefully you had a chance to review that earlier today, but we did take time based on the feedback we heard from the early design review hearing to reach out to the public. Of course, we've got feedback both at the hearing itself, which is about a year ago, through our public outreach, and then ultimately through letters and emails as well. And the feedback was generally consistent with what we heard from folks at the early design review hearing: parking, traffic, scale, massing, the height, and then design itself. We'll touch on each one of these very briefly because I know Mike touched on a lot of this. But just simply said, the parking requirements per density bonus, we would technically be at 86 spaces, which is half a space per unit. The base zoning for Downtown Vista allows for 211 spaces, and we're providing 246 spaces. This was a very big topic, if everybody recalls from the early design review hearing, and we've heard it over and over in talking to the public, that nobody wants overflow parking. Nobody wants overflow parking from residents into their community, into the neighborhood, or taking up otherwise what is public parking in the downtown area, because that's very much at a premium. So our goal was to redesign the project to get to one space per bedroom. In addition, we'll be providing 44 public parking spaces around the improvements that we're doing in the public right-of-way around the site, and 36 bicycle parking spaces on site in a secure bicycle parking area. From a scale perspective, we spent a significant amount of time and effort evaluating all of the sight lines, what this project would look like visibly from the street, what the topography surrounding the site looked like. I know we had talked about this at the early design review hearing about potentially being able to present a 3D model and sort of walk through some of that. We do have that. I don't know that there's not necessarily a good mechanism at the hearing here to present that, but we spent a lot of time actually flying and taking the topography, going all the way up Ocean View, so we could see what the real sight lines look like and the real distances look like. That led to us actually lowering the east building as much as feasibly possible. If you recall, there's a granite formation on the site that would prevent us from getting to a certain depth on the east side. We initially explored trying to bench the site to actually get it further subterranean, but that formation would require significant blasting and effort, and ultimately would make the project infeasible. We increased the step backs, as Michael pointed out, on the roof lines on the east side to create a further sense of, or to reduce, I would say, the sense of sort of scale at the street or for the houses in the residential neighborhood on Ocean View. We increased the building articulation, meaning the planes and kind of how we're breaking up the facade of the building, as well as the material variety. And then lastly, we increased the amount of open space, which is, I think, slightly over an acre ultimately on the site, to 34% of the total site area. So we could have more landscaping, have more trees, more things to sort of hide and break up the scale of the building. One thing I do want to point out that we spent a lot of time talking about, I'm just going to go back here, is this concept. When we originally looked at this, we actually had a square building. Dealing with a circular site is not necessarily an easy thing to do, but credit to KTGY and Darren Schoolmeester, our principal architect, with thinking through this, that having this concept of wings of the building, and that really allows it to where, from any angle you're looking at it, you're sort of only seeing one or two of those wings, so you're further sort of reducing that sense of massing and scale as opposed to just one large structure on the site. So let me go. So these are, coming back to the topography and sort of line of sight, these were some of the analysis, and I think this is something that the commissioners had asked for at the early design review that we study. And there are more, of course, as you've seen in our packet. I just wanted to pull these two to be representative of the work that was done. But this gives you a sense, and I think there was some mischaracterization, I think, at the early design review hearing, because we didn't have this information that the building was going to be sort of overbearing or looming over either the homes or even up to the height of homes on the upper portion ocean view. But what you see here on the top slide or the top photo, this section view shows that even with the building at full scale or full height, the homes on the upper portion of Ocean View have an unrestricted view as they do today over the top of the building. What you see on the bottom is a better sense of the building being set lower on the Ocean View side relative to the street grade, to where you're not actually seeing those 4 floors, you're actually only really seeing, you're almost starting on sort of level with the second floor at the Ocean View street grade. So we've made a great deal of effort to reduce that impact of sort of height and scale and sense of massing on the residential side of the building. Regarding the design, this is a tricky one. Design is very subjective. We did walk away from the early design review with some feedback from the commissioners to explore the Irving Gill design. We spent a great deal of time doing that. We debated whether to include the actual renderings of that design in this presentation, lest we scare anybody. It did not come out, unfortunately, as we would have hoped. So we acknowledged some of that feedback and did our best to utilize some of that design and some of that sort of style of Irving Gill and bring it into a more modern design. And I think the good things to come out of that, you can see this is the old design that we had prepared a year ago. Little, not very clean. The balconies sort of hang off the sides. You have these dark facades, very flat and rigid roof lines that give you the sense of, here's the absolute height of the building. And what we tried to do was soften it up, as Michael mentioned, and create much more of this sense of brightening up the building, creating an undulating facade, this sort of structural facade that sort of waves as it goes through. So it's not just a flat face and then an undulating roof line. And it was interesting because we were looking at a lot of different buildings, looking at different styles, and this roof line struck everybody in the team, and sort of this undulating facade is something that helps the roof line disappear a little bit more as you're looking up into the building, as opposed to just being sort of a rigid picture frame like we had in the original design, where you can see those soffits of the building. And Michael had already showed these, but these are the different views looking from Indiana down to the south toward the building. One thing I want to point out about this particular view is, in our original design, it's hard to tell in looking at it from a rendering, but the building actually cuts in much further here at the inside corner behind the sculptural element. And what that allowed us to do is add additional trees, street trees and mature trees behind the sculptural element to further hide the building. At first, in our other design, we'd really thought about using the building to frame the sculptural element and not having as much vegetation there. But by cutting the building further in, we're able to provide more landscaping and sort of further reduce that sense of scale and mass of the building. And then finally, the view from sort of as you're coming down Ocean View, maybe turning to the right on Park, a little more on Park here, but you can see some of the step backs. You can see a similar roof line of breaking up that sort of undulating roof line at the upper floors, and then of course more landscaping and additional open space, as well as setting the building down as it would curve to your left as we're looking at this, setting it down below grade. And that's all I have. So thank you very much, and I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioners, questions of staff or the applicant? Commissioner Grimm.
Actually, this question, I believe, is for staff, and it's regarding the concessions on the project. Find my notes here real quick. The fact that the applicant's providing 18 affordable units, and this is a question just to make sure I'm following this okay. That allows a 50% density bonus from the state. We can't do anything about that. It also brings into play 3 different concessions, and those concessions were building height, the setbacks, and then the parking. Not,
I'll have to correct you on that. There's only two concessions, and it would be the step back for the east elevation of the third floor of the building, and the building height, total building height exceeds the specific plan requirement. The parking is not a concession, that is a requirement from state law.
okay, but it's still a reduction. Normal parking would,
It is a specific requirement of the state that is different from the Downtown Vista specific plan, correct?
right, we're getting wrapped up in semantics here, but basically there's three things that are different than a normal project in terms of, because they're providing affordable housing essentially. And I guess my point is that those are all mandated through the state, and city here can't do much about those anyway, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that was just the point I was trying to make. Thank you.
Can I just clarify one thing? Sure. We are providing, just to clarify on the parking side, we're not using any parking concessions. We were actually exceeding the parking requirements, not only in the density bonus law, but also what is required in the Downtown Vista specific plan, the underlying base zoning.
Right, my point is that if you were doing a project somewhere else in town, your parking would be at a higher level.
Understood. Yep.
Citywide parking standard is there. Yeah. Commissioner Looney.
Question on sheet C3, which is a grading and drainage plan. It appears that the applicant is developing or improving the street improvements on the far east edge of Park Avenue. Is that something that the city would typically require? Because it looks like they're removing and replacing asphalt paving and basically making improvements on the other side of the street.
That's correct. And in order to, and I don't know if the civil engineer wants to discuss those improvements, or Greg, did you want to dive into that? But yes, it includes improvement of the entire right-of-way going to the east side of the entire improvement of the public right-of-way surrounding the site, which would affect the opposite side of the street. You're correct.
Okay, good. That was all. Thank you.
Commissioner Savage?
Yeah, this question's for staff. I know we've worked with patio requirements for residents, things like towels hanging over the rails and stuff like that. I didn't see that in the packet. Is that something that we're able to request from the applicant?
There's no conditions currently on the project to restrict the use of the private patio areas. I think in the past, the planning commission's kind of dived into doing that. I think, I'm trying to recall, Patsy, 100 Main, maybe there was some limitations there, but universally, we haven't included any conditions that restrict the use of those patios.
Okay, I think that's something I'm going to request as a condition. And then question for the applicant. The passive courtyard, that's intended to reduce noise by having it be a smaller space. That's the intent of that side. Is that correct?
That's correct. Not because it's smaller, it's actually quite large. It's as large as the other large courtyards, but just there's no activity, nothing that would be constructed that would be noisy or would allow for activity in that space. It's really just sort of a landscaped lounging courtyard, as opposed to, say, the pool and the spa, which are, more noise and more activated.
Right. Just want to clarify, what kind of designates it in your guys' design minds as the gathering courtyard? What makes that more of a gathering courtyard than the passive one?
Are you talking about, sorry, the courtyard on the northeast?
Yeah.
So two things. One, there's actually a community room on the west side of that gathering courtyard in the north that opens up to that courtyard. So, for example, a resident could host a birthday party there or an event. And then also in that gathering courtyard, there's actually barbecue spaces, an outdoor space to actually cook and, have an outdoor party. Whereas in the passive courtyard, there's no cooking facilities, there's no barbecues, there's no courtyard, no clubhouse or anything around there. It's merely just seating and landscape.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
think, oh, and then the, small note, but the planter block finish, I noticed you guys haven't really designated what the intent is, if it's just CMU block or if there's stucco. I'm assuming this is gonna match the look of the building. I mean, is there any intention on those planters and things like that?
Don't know yet. I would defer to our landscape architect ultimately and our architect, but yes, to match the building would be the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, the city code does not allow for just standard precision blocks, so we would require there be some type of decorative block or finish put on the wall itself.
Sweet, great.
And internally, we've been talking a lot of looking at, the public improvements that have taken place on South Santa Fe, the roundabouts, that type of, look and feel and stone is sort of what we have in mind to match the whole area of South Santa Fe.
Great, yeah, just saw a block and red flag, so.
Right.
Commissioner Savage, may I request a clarification point on on the balcony question that you were asking? Are you concerned about the potential storage or the use of balconies as storage for the residents?
Yeah, just, I think we had some language that we used on one of the apartment buildings that we've gone through, so something similar to that where we just, things can't be stored out there.
Sure. Yeah, we had that on Main Street and the Grove, the project on Civic Center Drive to prevent the usage of the balconies for that concern that you have about storing things over there. So we can definitely create some condition or something to that effect if that's the pleasure of the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Just a quick note on that, we actually do have, in our unit designs, we have enclosed outdoor storage on the balconies for the residents to use. So they don't need to have anything out in the open. For building owners, we share the same sentiment. It never looks good to have your building with towels and everything sort of draped over. So we share that.
Very good. Mr. Ressler, you provided us yesterday with a memo adding an additional condition for the street and signal development impact fees. And you folks are in agreement with that?
Yes, we are. We understand. Our traffic fees will go towards the mitigation per the Downtown Vista specific plan.
Okay, very good. Commissioners will need to add that and whatever motion goes forward. So I think that concludes Commissioner questions and discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will open the public hearing, and Julia Shrevin, followed by Edward Watkins. Mr. Watkins, if you'd be ready to come up when Ms. Shrevin gets finished.
Good evening. I'm not going to make any bones about this. I'm not for this project. But let's go into a few things. How did this project not have an EIR? The traffic here is going to be a disaster. They should have to do an EIR just on that. For every 1 bedroom, 1 bath, you can expect 2 cars. So they have 70, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. That's 4 cars. Because people cannot afford, they need 4 people to do a 2 bedroom. That's 280 spots. That's just on the 2 bedroom. That doesn't include the 1 bedroom. And they're saying they went up to 246. You're short. So where is that parking going to go? Our business. I'm a business owner. I have parking in my back lot. You're going to take parking away from businesses who are hurting already. That's not fair. The first meeting with this developer, they didn't want to go and blast the bedrock. You know why? Which he failed to say. Because it would cost them money. Oh well. You lower that height and you blast the bedrock. If you want to build here, we tell you what to do. I feel sorry for Shell Hoop and everybody on Ocean. This is going to be a god-awful development in front of their homes. And they've been here a lot longer than they've been working with the city. You owe it to the people that live here. They get first dibs. You should hear what they have to say instead of just negating and disregarding their views. They're saying affordable housing. What is affordable? If it means that they get to do what they want, don't do affordable. And you're doing apartments all over Vista, people come and go. Where's the charm in that? Vista used to be charming. Keep it charming. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watkins? Mr. Watkins? Followed by Judy Fury.
I'm Edward Watkins. I live at 463 Ocean View Drive, right above the church location. I talked last time. I am concerned about my view. I'd like to see a little more on that height schematics that they showed. I'd like to see where that 197, I think I saw on there, in distance to the height, where that puts on Ocean View versus where my house is at the top of the hill. Would they said at the Ocean View level is here, my house is down about 10, 15 feet from Ocean View, and then there's even houses above it. So whether they're looking at the top elevation of Ocean View when they said it'd be clear, or where that was. Generally, when a coastal commission builds a tall building, you have to put pipes up there to see where the view is gonna be. Is there any requirement like that on this? Traffic, we approved Vistonian down there. There's a lack of spaces already for that when they have a function. People park in the church. People park along the edge of that church location with the spots there. If this comes in there and all that goes away, I don't know how you're gonna have 180 people at a wedding down there. So we waited 3-4 years for that building, or more than that, for that building to be filled. And that's gonna go away if you don't have any parking. Let's see, right now we concerned about the traffic on Ocean View last time. Somebody came up probably 3 weeks later, did a traffic study. They set it up on a rainy night, about noon on a Monday or Tuesday, and was taken down the next morning by 8 o'clock. So if that was a traffic study that was dedicated toward this, I'd like to see it on the weekend when there's actually traffic running through there. As you come down Ocean View or Eucalyptus, you can't get out on North Santa Fe majority of the time, and this is just gonna add that much more to it. If you go the other side on Morningside or Ocean View onto Civic Center, it's backed up there too. So this is gonna create a nightmare for us to get out of our area. There's no lighting up there except for at the intersections and anywhere on Ocean View. So, and no sidewalks, people walk up there all the time. The traffic either needs to be presented with some lighting up there if it's coming our way after this traffic study. I have some concern with the sewer line. I don't know where this is gonna feed into. Ocean View, I don't think the sewer line's ever been replaced since it's been built up there. So I don't know if it's feeding into North Santa Fe that's been replaced, or water infrastructure down there, where they replaced the water line up Ocean View. But I'm sure it wasn't accommodated enough for a 176 unit complex to tie into. As far as him saying it's hard rock down there, my house is above it. It's 3-tier lot. There's not one rock in that. It's solid DG, but they were able to, in 1960, to get a bull. Raise the lot multiple levels. And I can't imagine down the bottom of the valley that they can't get something to dig down there. They did it right. So I don't know why they did it there. So we just amended any geological sites where anybody drill holes to actually see what's there. Church has been there for 100 years. So I don't see any other than Ryland. There's no underground down there. No one's down there.
Do you wrap up your comments? Okay, thank you very much. I did forget to mention that to move the hearing along tonight, everybody will be limited to 3 minutes. So Judy Fury, please, followed by Victor Diaz.
Dawn anymore? Oh, there it goes. All right. I'm Judy Fury. I live at 471 Ocean View Drive. Actually, I live next door to Mr. Watkins and his lovely wife. And we have our back decks on our houses have a direct view of downtown Vista. And that's one of the few things that is actually of value in our very old homes. And that's going to go away. Mr. Dracos was kind enough to stop by and paid us a visit. And he saw that from our deck. We can see all the way from our back deck, all the way to the restaurants on Main Street. Clear, unobstructed view. I agree, this site is a crown jewel of that little downtown area. And what we're gonna do is put high-density apartments on it. That just sounds wrong. It's just the whole concept of it is wrong. And I realize from a development point of view, a potential vacant piece of land is something you build on to make money. But this is the crown jewel. That little circle is precious to that downtown area, obstructing our view, and that's going to ultimately hit every one of us that owns a home on Ocean View on that side of the street. That's going to hit us financially for a loss when we go and sell our houses. We're going to lose that. I have great concern about the traffic. There is absolutely no way that traffic is not going to become a nightmare for all of us. Santa Fe, since it was narrowed to 2 lanes, already backs up a quarter to a half a mile easily. Civic Center Drive is already backing up a quarter to a half a mile easily. Eucalyptus, they've just done improvements on Eucalyptus, still a 2-lane street. How are those people going to get in and out of our neighborhood? They're going to cut through Ocean View Drive. It's going to create a nightmare at Eucalyptus and Santa Fe, Eucalyptus, Civic Center Drive, Ocean View Drive, where we have no sidewalks and it's a 2-lane street. And like Mr. Watkins said, no street lighting. And our street is very frequently done by walkers in the neighborhood, walkers with dogs.
Could you summarize your comments?
My ring doorbell goes off because of all the walkers and the dogs that are coming by. So I'm just very, very concerned about the traffic and losing our view. And there's going to be no parking for any downtown events.
Thank you. Victor Diaz, followed by Monica Shellhook.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, staff, good evening. Thank you for your service. My name is Victor Diaz. I'm a member of the Southwest Mountain States Regional Council of Carpenters. I live in the local area, live, work, and recreate in the vicinity of the project. Believe that I will be impacted by the environmental impacts of the project. The city should require the project to be built with contractors that will hire locally, pay prevailing wage, and utilize apprentices from a state-certified apprenticeship training program. Workforce requirements reduce construction-related environmental impacts while benefiting the local economy and workforce development. In a recent 2020 report titled, Putting California on a High Road, a Jobs and Climate Action Plan for 2030, the California Workforce Development Board concluded that investments in growing, diversifying, and upskilling California workforce can positively affect returns on climate mitigation efforts. The South Coast Air Quality Management District recently found that local hire requirements can result and in air pollutant reduction. Recently, the state of California reiterated its commitment towards encouraging workforce development and housing affordability through the Affordable Housing and High Road Jobs Act of 2022, otherwise known as Assembly Bill 2011, which requires projects pay workers a prevailing wage and hire from state-certified apprenticeship programs for projects meeting certain siting, affordability, and development standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica Shellhoop, followed by Brenda DeAngelis.
How many of you live in our neighborhood? Do any of you live in our neighborhood?
You just need to tell me what your concerns about the
My
project.
concern is that you really don't care about us. You really don't. And it's saddening to me. My husband's family came to this country and came and settled in Vista in 1928. They opened business and kept it occupied up until the day they died. My husband and I own that property and are making a living from that property as of today. And our tenants are very scared of losing their ability to keep their businesses going because of lack of parking. Parking is an issue. Traffic is an issue. Demographics is an issue. Architecture is an issue. And I don't see any one of you giving a damn. And I'm sorry, but that's exactly how I feel. You don't care. You don't care.
Okay, move your comments along.
So where do we go from here? Is this a done deal? If this is a done deal, then I challenge you to care about our neighborhood and to care about the residents in our neighborhood and to care about the history of this neighborhood. Think about that before you think about what you can put in your wallet. Think about that.
Thank you. Brenda? Followed by Cam Shellhoop.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Brenda DeAngelis, and I'm with Realtors for Vista. And it's a new organization, so please join it on Facebook. Thank you very much. Anyway, I have heard a lot of comments that I completely 100% agree with. But I haven't heard anyone give a suggestion as what to do with the property when it sells. Because my thought is, if they don't comply with the things that we need, which parking is extremely important, then the land is going to be pretty darn useless. So to me, I've come up with some solutions of what we can do with the property once it's ready to sell back to Vista. And what I would like to see, I would like to see a real park for once in our downtown, one that families could come to and could actually be a part of something downtown. Like, why do we have our farmers market at the Vista Jail parking lot? I would love to see our farmers market back in the downtown. I also would love to see also a park that fully has the ability to have live concerts and have some of our community amazing musicians come and sing down there. And we could make it a really awesome place. And the last thing that I was really thinking about is the design. The last time we had a design issue with the Planning Commission, it cost us a lot of money to fix that dumb sign down there, which now I actually kind of like it because when I drive my clients through it, I say, this is what Vista's done. Even though Vista's been known, by the way, as a bedroom community for so many years, we want to still keep that. Many of us want that still. We want the small town feel. So what I'm trying to say is I would like to still see, I would like to not see mistakes because mistakes are very costly to us. And one mistake I could really see with this plan, and one thing I really liked were all the trees. The rest of it I don't like. In fact, if you look at it really closely, it looks like a swastika. I mean, if you really looked at it, if you added some lines, I thought it was a really terrible design. But that's my opinion, and thank you for letting me speak.
Cam Shellhoop, followed by Ben and Dory McHugh.
Good evening, Commissioner, Commission. Well, what I've heard so far pretty much covers everything I had to say. Except, at least one of you knows I grew up here and I've seen a lot of changes. A lot of them for the good. However, we now have an awful lot of high density around the downtown. And it's causing problems. We don't need any more. And over the last year, we heard about rolling blackouts due to the power grid. We've heard about water rationing because of the scarcity of water. And yet we're willing to put in more high density. And that should be a consideration. I think the idea of a park there would be great. You know, I understand in real estate, you want to have the highest and best use, however that may be defined. And I disagree with giving this developer any concessions, because so far all the concessions I see are coming from the residents. So I hope this commission will consider the people who live there as well as the developer who is going to build it, leave town, and never look back. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben and Dory McHugh.
We didn't prepare anything. We live right up the street, about 5 houses from the construction site.
Could you pull the microphone a bit closer?
We live about 5 houses from the construction site. During the renovation of South Santa Fe, Ocean View was a racetrack. It was terrible. We need to know that it's not going to be like during this construction. And I was wondering if there's any mitigation towards the protection of Ocean View Drive currently in regards to the planning, how it's going to be blocked off to the front or the back of the construction. It's going to happen. We understand this. What's going to protect? I walk my dogs every morning. I've heard the same thing from our neighbors. It's a racetrack sometimes. How do we prevent that from happening? My biggest concern, period, is city's got to grow, great. But how do we protect the integrity of Ocean View and the hill at least itself?
Yes, my main concern is it's used as a cut through quite often for people to get from Santa Fe to Civic Center. And those people don't live in that neighborhood, so they don't care. And they speed quite frequently. I also am not, I know lighting has been mentioned many times, street lights. I'm not a huge fan of that because I really don't want to see any street lights. I know that would be safer, but I just want to know how you're going to keep people from using our small street with no sidewalks, where my husband walks the dogs every day, from becoming a Grand Prix racetrack every morning and afternoon. It's already a lot of people that speed through there. It's, you know, it's a little scary at times. I can't really walk, so I don't walk those streets, but I just don't want, I don't see how that's going to be prevented because there's no way to put in sidewalks for us to safely walk on. And I don't, you know, barring something horrible like speed bumps, which would be awful for us that live there, you know, I think that's a big concern.
Is there any written mitigation to Ocean View at this point? Is there any talk about what to do and how to fix it?
In my understanding, there's an environmental document that was prepared that included a traffic study, and it made assumptions about which way traffic would go leaving the project. So I would suggest you might want to get with staff afterwards and have a look at the environmental document, look at the traffic study, look at, we may be able to add a condition for construction, at least, that they not use Ocean View and ask for the cooperation of the developer. So we can get that. All right. That concludes the speaker slips that I have. Anyone else wishing to address the commission on this item?
Commissioners, may I just address a few of the comments that were
Sure.
made? First, let me start off with saying that I agree with the last gentleman, and we would be perfectly okay. We've actually thought about this internally. While the traffic study does not show a lot of traffic going through Ocean View, and I think the original speaker commented on the equipment for the traffic study being out there. We've actually done 2 traffic studies at different times. But I would suggest, I don't think Ocean View is a street, this is me speaking just personally, kind of off the cuff here. I don't think Ocean View is a street that potentially people would want sidewalks on. I think the walkability and the rural nature of it is part of the appeal. I live on a similar street, but I do think signage, unrelated to the project, but I do think signage at the entryway of Ocean View as you're coming from our site, and also the entryway at Ocean View coming from Civic Center the other way, indicating to drivers that Ocean View is not to be used as a through street or to take another route or whatever the appropriate traffic signage is, would go a long way there. And, we would be supportive and in favor of helping to either fund that or do a study on it or whatever is needed. And I've seen that done as a former planning commissioner in Encinitas in other locations as well, to at least notify people, look, this is a residential street, it's not a through street. And then there's, of course, things like, speed bumps and other mitigations. Regarding the sewer line and water lines, the project is conditioned to install several hundred feet of new sewer lines, upsizing sewer lines, new water infrastructure, as well as new street, paving, curb and gutter, storm drain, et cetera. So we have studied and worked with Vista Irrigation District as well as the public utilities to increase that infrastructure to accommodate the project. We have done 2 soil studies for the gentleman questioning whether the rock was existing and diggable. It is not. It's a pretty significant problem in both of our soil studies. And then just to make a comment, again, personally on building it, leaving town, and never looking back. This is an opportunity zone. We will own this project for a minimum of 10 years. I live in Encinitas personally. I've personally walked door to door to try and meet with people, introduce myself, and give them my personal information to sit down with them at any given time. We're not a build it, run away, never look back. We're a small organization. We're not some national giant Lennar type development firm that's going to just build it and run away with bags of money. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wishing to address the commission? Then I will close the public hearing, and that's the end of public comment. Monica? Fill out a speaker slip and come talk to us.
Do I have to do that again?
No.
Okay. I do want to encourage you to look into the safety of our neighborhood, and because I do not walk in our neighborhood, there's not enough room for a car and a human being to safely walk in our neighborhood. But we have a lot of them, and I see this man that's previously, him and his dogs, and I personally drive slower than normal, and I have Judy Naley who can vouch for that, because I am terrified of hurting anybody or me even being hurt or hurting an animal. I stop for rabbits, jackrabbits, and this is important, this is just important. I just really encourage you to think about these things.
Thank you very much. Sharon Aker?
Hi. Hi, my name is Sarah Archer.
Sarah.
Thank you for letting me speak. And I grew up in the city of Vista, and I moved away for a while, and I'm back. And I just wanted to say that the city, aside from even this project, we should consider maintaining the integrity of the city of Vista, and it is a bedroom community and a desirable place to live. And as we grow, I think we should just try to be responsible in the growth so that it continues to be a desirable place to live. And I've just noticed that there's a lot of apartment complexes being built, and with that, you can tend to have more of a transient population, and not always, but a tendency. And something the city should look at is the percentage or the ratio of rentals to residents in the city. And I don't know if that's already been done or not, but I would be interested in looking at that number. I am concerned about the size of this proposed structure and also the design elements, and I don't know that it really fits into the historic design of Vista. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Last speaker. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up to discussion amongst the commissioners. While they're thinking, let me ask staff a quick question. Michael, this property is covered by the downtown specific plan that identified it as mixed use?
Yes, so when the Downtown Vista specific plan was created, this environmental impact report was prepared for that in 2010.
2010.
And I guess just for the audience's information, that specific plan included the development of 1,270 multifamily residential units, as well as 1,866,737 square feet of additional commercial retail.
Okay.
In evaluating that, the project came up with mitigations for a number of items. The mitigation measures identified in there include air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, hazardous materials, hydrology, public services, as well as traffic.
Okay. So 12 years ago, the city made a decision that this property should be mixed use at 40 dwelling units per acre under the downtown specific plan. That's correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. So subsequent to that, the state legislature has adopted a whole bunch of regulations that address affordable housing. And it says if they offer up affordable housing, the city has to do this. And you heard some of those concessions tonight. So there's not a lot of discretion that the Planning Commission has because of previous decisions by the city to make this mixed use, 40 dwelling units per acre, and what the state legislature has done to encourage affordable housing. So just things that we're wrestling with up here. So commissioners, any additional comments or questions, discussion about the project? Commissioner Looney.
I'd like to hear this from the student commissioners.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to hear from the student commissioners.
Student commissioners. Peter Kasani?
I would say overall, I support the idea of the project. I think, because I'm going off to school soon, but I would like the option of being able to afford living here when I come back. And I think developing more units allows for that affordability. But I also totally understand concerns about speed and traffic. This is kind of a question for staff. I'm not really sure, but I know navigation apps account for speed limits in their routing. So if the speed limit on Ocean View, I believe, was low enough, the apps might be less likely to suggest them as a cut-through route for people who are using them. I don't know if that's something cities are allowed to do or states are, just something I thought of. And then labor concerns, I'm not in construction, but I think prioritizing local contractors makes a lot of sense. But other than that, I think the project is much prettier than it was before, and I think it's something we need if we're going to grow. So
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Kasani?
I was at the last meeting when the project was first proposed in early design review, and I really like the idea of having more buildings in Vista, and I especially like the idea that there's going to be low-income buildings. I'm also going off to school, and I would like to come back one day, and I know that the more apartments built, the lower the rent goes, which benefits everyone in the long run. And I do really like the plan. It is nicer. And I believe there are some ways that the city can go about with the traffic problems, maybe adding in speed bumps or something along the lines of that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioners. Michael, let me ask you another question. Were discussions about additional traffic calming measures had in your discussion with the applicant and with the traffic engineer, the city's?
Yeah, actually, that discussion did take place, and the repercussions of those discussions are the improvements that are before you tonight.
Okay.
They actually show a calming measure that reduces the speed coming from Eucalyptus down to Park Avenue and entering the circle.
Right.
There's bulbs there that reduce the street width in order to reduce speeds, decorative sidewalks that identify pedestrian access, and other landscape improvements on the edge in order to define the street and reduce the street width in order to reduce the speeds on the surrounding arterials.
Okay, good. So we've included traffic calming measures to the improvements. Commissioner Hastings. Oh, Don, did you have did I get your question? Okay, sorry. Commissioner Hastings.
I think a lot of the problems that the residents have brought up they're real. I think the problem of parking is somewhat intractable. It's hard to find a solution for that, especially as Commissioner Rossler pointed out, there are requirements from the state that reduce the requirements for parking. So we can add up how many people would live in that building and know that they don't have to provide parking for every single resident in that building. So yes, that's a problem. And the thing about change, change for Vista is like change in all of California. Vista is, I love living in Vista, but it's gonna change. And I live in a place where I don't wanna see it change, but I don't have any choice, right? So somehow we have to accommodate legislatively and personally for the change that's gonna be there. Okay, that's all I'll say about that part. I like the changes that the developers have made since the EDR last year. And I felt like they did make an effort to respond to the residents at some level. So that's what I gotta say.
Commissioner Grimm.
I agree with the comments of both the commissioners that have spoke so far. I think this is a really difficult property. It's a circle. It's very unusual. I always try to think about if this particular project doesn't go in, what could? Somebody mentioned park. Park's a great idea, but right now there's no plan for it in the city's general plan. There's no money for it. It's not scheduled in the parks plan. So that, is there anything else? Would you want to see commercial property there? Probably not. Single family, be nice, but the circular property isn't really conducive to single family. Also, the single family is not going to support the amount of road improvements that are needed on those 3 streets that go around there. That's going to be an expensive proposition, requires something to generate that amount of money to be able to make those improvements. I do agree that parking is probably the biggest problem. I think pretty much every apartment that we see, there is some overflow. I'm hoping that if there is overflow, it'll be more to the west. Overflow usually occurs in the evenings when people get home from work. It's not usually a problem in the daytime. So if there is a problem here, as Commissioner Hastings mentioned, I'm hoping that, that could occur more in the, as some of the businesses close, they're down along the streets in that area, but I do believe there'll be some overflow into those areas. What I like about the project, I wanted to go through that fairly quickly. First off, I think the architect really did a great job of changing the existing plans that we saw before and making it much more compatible, not only with the downtown, but with the neighborhood. I know they tried to soften the eastern side and make it a little bit more compatible. I did have one question, and Michael, if you could pull up, I think it's perspective A1. This is more of a question than a comment. Like I said, I really liked the revised architecture. I think it's much softer. And the next one, I think it is. Yeah, I just had a question about this perspective. There's a lot of trees there, and if when you first build a project, you're going to have, the trees are going to be small. This particular viewpoint, I'm just kind of wondering why there wasn't some additional treatment, maybe some of the wood grain that you'd used in other parts of the property. It just, to me, that one view, and it's the only one there, but it looks, I don't want to say institutional, that's kind of a bad word, but to me, it's a little stark, I guess, and I don't know, maybe if the architect wants to address that. But overall, I really like what you did in terms of the architecture, and I don't know if any of the other commissioners feel the same way I do on this particular view. I also think the project is great for the downtown. It immediately provides a lot of support for our restaurants. I like the way the architect oriented the property away from the eastern side where the residential properties are, and oriented so when people walk out of that, hopefully they'll walk downtown, get something to eat, get some entertainment. So I really like that, and I think it's an important factor for the survival of the downtown. That is also something we care and worry about besides, everything else. And again, I'm going to be supporting this project. I would like to get an answer, though, on maybe from the architect on that particular perspective.
Would you identify yourself for us?
Sure, yeah. Darren Schoolmeister, I'm with KTGY, the architect for the project. Yeah, so the concept on that particular facade was really to let the artwork and the landscape kind of be the show, and have the architect or the facades themselves be much more of a backdrop. There is still a fair amount of articulation in terms of the folding planes of the facade and how the parapets are going up and down, and we've had added accent colors with the fenestration patterns of the windows. But the idea was to focus the siding materials on the tower form where the entry is to give people a wayfinding device, but let the artwork really be the star at the end of the street there.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Savage.
Yeah, I have a couple items. First of all, I just want to check in with staff about that recommendation of the speed limit on Ocean View. Is that something that could be part of this project, or is that something that needs to be looked at in the future?
I think that's something that needs to be addressed at the Traffic Commission. And I think that's something that we could relay to our traffic engineer, but I don't think that's something that we could address tonight.
And I just want to mention that I think that's an issue with or without this project that the Traffic Commission should probably address, should work on. That was really awesome. The suggestion that maybe wayfinding apps might not take people through that way. So that is definitely the way that I'm sure a lot of people find out about it. Just have a couple compliments for the developer and the architect. I have seen a lot of these projects come through here where that concession the state makes us have, the developers tend to stick to that parking spot limit. You guys have gone above and beyond. You've developed the 44 spaces outside of the project. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I do appreciate that you guys have taken that extra effort. I think the fact that you guys took in the stuff from the EDR was really great, and I really appreciate all that. The site lighting looks great. I know you guys have to follow the photometric plan, but it looks like you guys have exceeded that. It looks like it's actually going to help the walking score for Vista. And I know the whole downtown area, that's intended to be a walkable space. And so if this is going to succeed, it needs to have people who, with your 33 bicycle parking spaces, with that site lighting, with the crosswalks, I think you guys are on your way to getting these residents into the downtown area. So that was really great. I do also just want to compliment, I know we've all said this, but you guys taking into account the line of the roof there with the parapets, it's really great. I do just want to bring up the 3 items that I've marked down for conditions. Condition preventing the storage on the patio. And again, I don't remember quite the verbiage, but just that residents don't store things out there. It sounds like the developer has provided a solution for the residents, but I don't know if this would be a condition or if this is something we ask the developer, but they can put a condition for the contractor who gets this project just not to use Ocean View and subcontractors not to use Ocean View. And then the third item, and I don't know how that verbiage is either, and then the verbiage on this one would be a little bit more clean. I think if we have signage on Ocean View for traffic control and an investigation into traffic mitigation that could include but not limited to speed bumps on Ocean View. I think that's all my notes. So
Okay. Isn't that the issue that Michael just said should be referred to the Traffic Commission?
Yes, the speed limit. But then the developer offered that he might be willing to work with the city to provide some upgrades. So.
Okay.
If I may, Commissioners, I'd suggest for that additional condition that it be caveated as subject to approval by the city engineer and the city traffic engineer, because as we're sitting here, I don't know how feasible that would be, because it'd be in the public right away, so we'd want their approval.
Cool.
Very good. All right. Commissioner Looney.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of things. Many of us have lived in Vista for well over 40 years, and there was something about Vista that brought us all here. We loved the way it was 40 years ago. Some of us like the way that it is now. Some of us don't like it the way that it is now. But all living cities are going to grow and they're going to change. If they don't grow, they're going to die. And we've seen new life come to downtown Vista. I remember not too long ago, I wouldn't walk downtown Vista because it wasn't safe. Today, people from Encinitas, Carlsbad, San Diego, and other parts of the county come to Vista for one reason or another, and it's to enjoy what we have. Ocean View is a narrow, winding road, and it's always been a narrow, winding road. There is no way that street improvements can be made. There's no property, there's no width. And I think that's part of the charm that the people that live on Ocean View bought there because of its rural feeling. I live in an old part of Vista as well that was developed in the 50s. I love the narrow, winding roads that have no sidewalks. That's why I live in Vista. Unfortunately, as the state and federal government become bigger, they make regulations that I don't like, but unfortunately I have to adhere to when I sit on this committee. I don't like the idea that we have to allow certain things in certain buildings, or that we have to allow a certain size of building, but that's what we have to come under the authority of sitting on this board. Coming back to KTGY, they've listened. They've worked within the federal laws, the state laws, and the city laws. I think they've gone out of their way to provide very low-income units. Very seldom do we see a project that will invest in the very low-income units. Developers don't want to do it because it doesn't make any money. But yet, time and time again, we get that request. Why isn't the developer giving us that very low income? So they've gone out of the way to do that. They've got a tremendous amount of open space, far beyond what the city requires. Landscaping, they could have gotten by with 5%. They're giving us 34%. It may not seem a lot, or maybe it's just a percentage, but when you look at the 5% versus 34%, that's a lot of green. That's a lot of trees. It's a lot of landscaping. And as has been mentioned, it is a unique site. And I believe that KTGY has developed a very unique building. And you have to look for where the parking is, which is good, unlike some of the other sites. So that's just kind of a synopsis of what I've seen over the last year and a half on this development of the project. It's unfortunate that the church had to sell, but they had situations that they couldn't change. So with that, I'm in support of the project, and I will vote for it.
Okay, very good. DeJesus, did your name has appeared and disappeared several times. Did you have comments?
Well, that's because all the other commissioners were ahead of me on most of my questions and your comments, which I very much appreciated, in that we are subject to the state mandates, and sometimes as sitting up here, it may seem that we can do anything we want personally, and that's just not the case. And then I had a question for staff. Does this project would help the regional housing needs assessment that the state mandates that Vista has to comply with? This project would help meet those numbers?
Yes, it would. It would help meet the requirements of standard median income units as well as very low income units.
And finally, I was going to say that I may not live in this particular project's streets surrounding the streets, but I live in Vista, and with the growth that's been going on the last few years, we're subject to the impacting our little roads and our streets as well. So I feel for you, and where there's a creation of a project and new people living in there and more people on a road and the road doesn't change, it is impacted. And so I am sensitive to that, but I also understand that it's at certain times of the day that it's worse than other times. So I understand that. And lastly, I will say that I was not here for the EDR last year. I wasn't on the commission, but seeing the paperwork from before and seeing what you've done now, the massing, I think, was such a great change to the project, really being mindful. Brought up landscaping, the increase in the landscaping. I just think the project, for what we have to do as a growing community, one of every community in California having experienced the growth and having to increase housing stock, is if you can make it look as nice as this, then it's worth doing. I just think the project looks great compared to what it looked like last year. And I would also ask that the public art that they've mentioned a few times, that it's actually public art by local folks having the first right to do that, but just a suggestion and something to the developer. And with that,
Thank you. Let me make a pitch for something else that's going on in the city right now. The city's working on amending its general plan. And 12 years ago, we designated this piece of property as mixed use on the general plan and on the, and zoning. So I would encourage you to get involved in the general plan update process so that you don't get surprised like this 5 years down the line when another project comes in and a decision's already made that we're going to put 40 dwelling units per acre on this piece of property. So it's important, it's incumbent on the citizens to be involved in the process, and that way you can, your participation is important. So, Commissioner Grimm.
Yes, I'm prepared, after listening to the other commissioners, I'm prepared to make a motion on the project. And I think it's been pretty clear tonight from the comments from all the commissioners that we're not particularly happy with what we're getting from the state to take away kind of our local control. But with that, I think the project's a good project, and I would move, we approve staff's recommendation with the addition of the condition that was provided by staff to us, and then the conditions that were outlined by Commissioner Savage, which included a prohibition of storage on the patio area. And again, staff can craft these conditions better than I'm laying them out. That construction would be diverted, not, or directed not to use Ocean View. And then finally, that there was a referral to the Traffic Commission and
Subject to the traffic.
subject to the Traffic Commission, and if that was added in. And I think that's the four things that we wanted to add, so I would move staff recommendation with the four conditions.
Michael, are you good?
Yeah,
with
just
the-
want to be clear on the last condition. So what I heard was that you were directing the applicant to do some type of analysis or study to determine maybe some potential speed limit, traffic calming type measures on.
I think it was mainly signage.
Signage, is that
and
what-
traffic control.
Okay,
I think
signage.
I think the speed limit would be something for the other.
Got it.
And I would agree with that in the motion.
Commissioner Savage.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the project with 4 additional conditions. Cast your vote, please, and lock it in. And the motion passes unanimously of the commissioners that are here. We're going to take a little break right now, so those that want to leave can leave, and staff can shift out for our next item.
Yeah, I usually give it to her and then she matches it up. But yeah. No, yeah. You know what? No, but
How are you doing? Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. All right, nice to meet you. So I just want to tell you I'm here. Yes. Sorry I'm late.
No problem.
Almost 4 hours.
I knew it was going to be about an hour and a half before we got to that item.
But it is, yeah.
I figured that one would be at least. I know your associates when they got it.
So I'm here to answer.
All right. Yeah, I'll do a short presentation. We don't get it. Yeah, I'm gonna go over basically show the general plan and zoning provided. Some of the site images they provided are like on a hidden slide. I don't know if we use them or not. So I'll just do my thing and then I'll pass it over to him. Introduce you and your team. Introduce yourself. You like you guys have to do that even though you're on the agenda?
Yep. I think my teacher makes it, I only have to do one per semester. So it's people have to do so. Basically my one is just me.
I did it all evening.
So it's like, even though I'm on the agenda, I'm actually showing up. So that's what it's for.
That was a good conversation. Commissioner's feedback.
Yeah. Definitely seen
I think so. I'll let him.
It's a public street, right? So, it's a public street, so I can't imagine the public taking the responsibility of that street. The pure cost of relinquishing that and making it a private street, the public is going to take that responsibility. Yep, and we closed the access going up there, yeah. I think that's something, if it was me, if I was, I would probably bring that up to him, letting him know that you had, 40 speakers, 20, 30 people, you and, I'm sorry, it's not you. You have, I'm not sure if I do, business cards, and I give you my business card, and I could, you could contact me, and I can translate what you're telling me to. Here's my business card. You know what? If you want to email me, like the rest of the you know what? You're going to go, right? Reminding me that we spoke tonight. I will provide you with the location and the date the traffic commission needs. I'll also forward your information. And your ID. Doing something either restricting access or. No, I agree. There's so many older arterials and Lauderdale Road is another one. We have projects that are going downtown just on the other side. Yep.
Okay, we'll get started again. The next item on our agenda is an early design review of a project on East Vista Way. EDRs are not public hearings, but we will take public testimony. The process for these applications are a presentation by staff. Will afford the applicant a time to explain his proposal to us. Then I will open it up to public comments, and then we'll discuss it amongst the commissioners. We'll cover the site plan, we'll cover floor plans and architecture. The site plan will include parking and circulation. We will talk about landscaping and amenities. And we will provide comments to the applicant, but no decision will be made tonight. Similar to the project that was before this, they came to us last year in an EDR, and we provided comments, and they responded to those comments. So, Chris, Mr. Winters, your staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman Rossler and Commissioners. This project, as you mentioned, is an early design review. It's for a proposed project tentatively named Vista Apartments. The location is at 1877 East Vista Way. As discussed briefly, the purpose of the EDR is to provide an opportunity for the Planning Commission to review the initial proposal and provide preliminary advisory comments to the project applicant. The proposal has not been routed or fully reviewed by city staff. It's reviewed only in terms of basic zoning compliance. The applicant can answer any specific questions about the project design and the thought process behind the initial proposal. No formal vote or action is required or necessary for an EDR item. The project scope, this is a preliminary proposal to develop 13 apartment units on a 1.37 acre currently vacant site. It's located at the northeast corner of East Vista Way and Lark Hill Drive, which is approximately 600 feet north of Taylor Street. Site topography slopes downward from the east towards the west with an elevation change of approximately 35 feet. Development of the site would include street frontage improvements, on-site resident and guest parking, common and private open space areas, and landscaping. This aerial image shows the project site, how it looks now, and surrounding land uses, which include Fire Station number 3 to the northwest across the street. Across the street to the west is also a vacant lot, which is known as the Voza Corner. It is currently has a project in the works for 51 condominium units. To the north is the Elks Lodge. To the east are single-family residences, and immediately to the south are commercial office uses.
The general plan land use designation for the property is medium-density residential, which allows 10 dwelling units per acre maximum density. The zoning is RM10 multifamily residential, which coincides with the general plan designation, and its maximum allowable number of units is 10 dwelling units per acre. This is the project site looking southeast towards the commercial offices with the picture on the top of the slide. That's the Elks Lodge on the left-hand side. For the lower picture, this is looking towards the northeast. Project specifics include 13 apartment units and 6 buildings. All are three-bedroom units proposed, ranging from 1,287 square feet to 2,938 square feet. 2-car enclosed garage are included for each unit. The 2 units that comprise the duplex at the rear of the property have 3-car garages. The proposed density is 9.5 dwelling units per acre. The proposed height is 2 stories at 27 feet. The maximum for the zone is 2 stories or 35 feet. Parking, 41 total spaces proposed, consisting of 28 garage spaces and 13 guest spaces. 39 are required by code, so there's 2 more than required. Open space and amenities, the initial design has 5,268 square feet of a common open space and 558 square feet of private open space, which is the average based on green space plus balcony area for each unit. Each unit features a private balcony ranging from 132 to 224 square feet. Each unit features private ground level open space ranging from 325 to 500 square feet. Other amenities include outdoor barbecue areas that are centrally located adjacent to units 2, 7, and 8, and common landscape areas with bench seating and tables. This is the site plan that shows how the buildings are broken up. There's 2 fourplex buildings located on the north side of the property. This includes unit types A and B. 4 units are at 1,636 square feet. The unit B units are 1,918 square feet. Units A are on the ends of the building, which are in the mustard color. Units B are in the middle of the buildings where the building is joined together. There's 1 duplex building, as I mentioned, at the rear of the property on the east. Those are the type D units. There's 2 of those. They are 2,938 square feet in size each. There are also 3 single unit buildings, which are shown in light blue. That's unit type C, and they're just under 1,300 square feet. This is a close-up view of the project site that shows 2 gated access points connecting to Larkhill Drive, which is a private road on the south. That's where the green circles are. There's a centrally located trash enclosure roughly in the middle of the project site, highlighted in green. And there's 2 outdoor barbecue areas, basically centrally located, as shown adjacent to units 2, 7, and 8, highlighted in red there. The amenities area is a close-up view. They show landscape pocket areas between the buildings on the north side of the project site and on the south side of the project site, which include the barbecue areas. The building architecture, as described by the applicant, a Spanish-style architecture with smooth stucco exterior in a banana cream color, red tile terracotta roof, dark rustic wood features for the garage entrances and window trim, and black iron railing. This is the architecture for the unit type A, which is the end units to the fourplex. On the right-hand side of the slide is unit type B, which are the interior units to the fourplex. This is unit type C, which is a single unit buildings. So you'll see, notice on this slide, there's windows on all 4 sides of the architecture. There was not a color slide for unit type D, but that's shown on the right-hand side of the slide. And those are the interior units to the fourplex. These are the floor plans for unit types A and B. Unit A on the left, unit B on the right. Move on to the next slide. These are the floor plans for unit type C and D. These are all included for the discussion with the applicant in case there's any questions. Staff's request is that the Planning Commission provide comments to the applicant related to the proposed design of the project. No formal vote or action on this item is required. There are also 2 slides, if helpful, with some site photos provided by the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Is the applicant here, and would you like to make comments about your proposal to the commission? Okay, very good.
We have the project architect and engineer with us, as well as the
Okay.
owner.
All right. Okay, commissioners, questions of staff or the applicant? Chris, I had 2 real quick questions while they're thinking about it. Number 1, East Vista Way is going to be improved to its ultimate right-of-way by the project?
That's correct.
And we currently allow parking on East Vista Way in front of Chow's and...
I believe that's correct. I haven't looked at the project that closely at this point.
All right. And then what's our minimum width of a private street that allows parking on one side?
From the top of my head, I believe it's 32 feet.
32 feet, very good. Thank you. All right. Commissioners, any questions of staff or the applicant? Is there anyone here who wishes to address the commission on the proposed project? Oh, sorry, they snuck it in on me. Christopher Parks?
Hi, I live on Lark Hill. I just wanted to voice a concern about traffic. We had a development go in down the street a few years ago, and then there's this one, and there's the one across the street that's proposed. And this is an area where the street narrows down, and it can get backed up during the busier times pretty badly. So I'm wondering if these developments will exacerbate that. I know you had made a reference to improvements.
Right.
I don't know about those, but I'd love to hear about it.
To what it's like in front of Chow's.
I see. Does that include like widening of the road?
Okay. Widening the road, sidewalk.
Okay. Is that with this project or with the other projects?
Project will be required to do their frontage.
I see. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Very good. And Abner Ziebert? Wow.
Hello, I'm Abner Zerby. I live just 4 or 5 properties down on Lark Hill, and I just want to bring, my concern is, like Chris, the traffic, especially on the Lark Hill. As you have it labeled, Lark Hill is a private street, which consists of easements and is privately maintained by the residents that live on that street. So I have a hard time understanding how we're going to add entrances onto Lark Hill when we are responsible for maintaining that street. I would suggest that we would look at reclaiming the street, making it a public street, and properly paving the street with curbs, and that a light would be put on Vista Way for the complex because it is nearly impossible to safely make a left out of there any given day of the week from 3 p.m. till 6 p.m.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, you know, we have a mile of traffic in a traffic jam from that point all the way to Gopher Canyon Road. And there is currently no there is no parking, street parking, which I hope to see added also. But the main concern would be, I don't want to see any traffic from this apartment complex onto our private street that we as residents pay to maintain. And hopefully that's something that we can work out. The road is only a single narrow 1-lane street. There is nowhere to turn around on the street, so anyone that comes down on that street will be coming into our driveways. We hope to mitigate that. We don't really want this traffic onto our street and down into a one-way dead-end street where they literally have to pull into our property to turn around. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And Travis? Tribbett?
Travis Tibbetts.
Tibbetts.
Sorry, I'm used to typing, not writing.
Sorry.
Thanks, everybody, for letting me speak tonight. And I also want to say that I know that each of you cares deeply about what you're doing because you wouldn't be here. So that's a follow-up from earlier comments. I think it's a beautiful development. I live in
Could you step
Sarah.
closer to the mic?
Sorry, I live in Sarah Development next to Chow.
Okay.
So I like the charm and the appeal of the area. It's rural. It's you know, the kind of the farming, that type of stuff. Change happens, and I know that's coming. But the big thing the biggest concern that I have is East Vista Way. I know that in the future it's going to be changed so that the throughput can happen better all the way to Highway 76. But right now it's a zoo. But I've also heard that East Vista Way is going to have a median, and it'll prevent people in Chow Restaurant and the club there and then Sarah neighborhood from turning left. That we have to turn right and then turn around at Warmlands and then to be able to proceed south on East Vista Way. To me, that's unacceptable. That's just unacceptable. And I don't want this and the 81 condominiums to be a factor that makes it necessary to make us turn right to turn left.
Understand.
That's the biggest thing. But other than that, I'm a pro-development guy. I think that this stuff is necessary to happen. I wish you the very best in your endeavor. And thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the commission? All right. Commissioners, comments on the site plan? Commissioner Looney.
Okay, thank you. I think the site design and the building and road layout, I think it works. I think it's successful. There are some markings on the site plan regarding retaining wall heights. Some say 5 feet, some say 4 feet on the same note. It really would help you to have a grading plan prepared by a civil engineer, because the 30-foot drop in grade elevation really isn't addressed on any of the drawings that we've received, and that shows a lot of information that's missing right now. I do have a concern where at the far west edge of the development on East Vista Way, where we have our driveway going right up to the street right-of-way. And again, there's a note that says there's a 5-foot high retaining wall. If it's a 5-foot high screen wall, that's different than a 5-foot high retaining wall. So I'm concerned about, if I'm driving on East Vista Way, am I able to look straight up through that drive? So I'd like to see that maybe mitigated or landscape screening of some sort. But other than that, I think the building placement, I think, works for your site. But we're missing a grading plan, which would really be helpful.
Commissioner Savage.
I actually have a question for the developer regarding the intended private open spaces. Is that going to have privacy screens around those?
John, could you pull your mic closer to you?
Yes. I should know better by now.
Good evening. My name is Atabak Youssef Zadeh. I'm the architect and the owner of the land for 40 years. Been there. I want to thank everybody and the public for all the comments. Now I'm ready to. I'm sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, sorry about that. The private open spaces, I'm not 100% clear on how these are enclosed. Is that intended to be with some like 6-foot privacy screens?
Are you talking about the back of the each unit?
Yeah.
They're going to be fenced on each side, so it'd be basically private for each unit in the back.
Okay. Yeah, and then that would trigger the same comment about access onto Lark Hill Drive. If the private spaces behind Unit C or Unit 3, 2, and 1 seems like the private open spaces might obstruct the view to the street for somebody leaving the driveway.
Actually, that's a great question. We can mitigate that by just working with the planning department to adjust the height to obviously not to block the view of any of the traffic.
Cool. So, yeah, just wanted to check. It wasn't clear on that. So,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Hang in here. Do you have access rights onto Lark Hill?
Do we have, I'm sorry?
Do you have easement rights on Lark Hill? You've shown your project taking access off of Lark Hill, and I believe it goes across your property, so I'm assuming you've got access or easement rights on that street.
I believe we do because I worked with the engineers and they said no access from Vista. The only way we can get into the property is through the Lark Hill.
Okay.
Because of the traffic, it's impossible to get the property, so I believe we do have it, and I have to work with the engineering department and the planning to make sure we have.
Okay. I would suggest that you improve Lark Hill to a 32-foot width, and you allow parking on your building side of it.
Okay.
Okay?
You know, just to let you know, on this property, we did provide all of the parking for the residents and their guests, so there's not going to be any overflow whatsoever from this property onto the street. And we provided 2 extra parkings just to make sure that, no overflow of the parking.
I think it would be wise for you to allow parking on Lark Hill and East Vista Way.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Your decision.
All right.
Okay. I'm okay with the site layout, but I've got some other comments on the amenities. Anyone else? Commissioner Savage?
Yeah, one last thing on the site layout, and I don't know if we'll probably address this with the architecture, but
Yes.
I do see the one side of Type A and Type C facing East Vista Way are kind of just these big flat spaces. And
Right.
it's a layout problem or if it's an architecture problem, but it is something that
Right.
you probably want to address, is just that flat, just seeing the flat side of the building is what most people will see of this development.
I believe if we can go to the, I don't know which one of the slides you're referring to. Could we go to that slide, please, Chris? Yeah, the one that the
Yeah, just the flat, just the elevation for Type A would be a good visual of that.
One more?
Was this a slide, Commissioner?
Oh, sorry, no, it shows the 4 possible elevations.
There we
For
go.
Type A, there we go. So it's the, for the Type A, it would be this or the left side elevation would be the one facing the street. And it's got a big flat wall. You can see the 2 downspouts. And then for Type C, if we could go to the next one, Chris, the next slide. So Type C, it's this 3rd elevation here that would be facing East Vista Way. So not as plain. There's some windows there, but
John, we will go back. Obviously, I appreciate your comment. Spanish style, I try to keep it very simple and do not over-articulate, because a lot of times architects do over-articulate some of these projects. We'll go back to the drawing board and we will articulate, that facade. Next time we come back, we make sure that we address your comment.
yeah, even if it's just maybe some windows on that one side.
I think
something
that's
to
a
break it up.
worth-taking comment.
I had the same comments on the right elevations facing East Vista Way. And the left side, the garage wall on Unit C, and then the 3-car garage door on Unit D with 2 of them right next to each other. You need to break that up.
Okay.
Okay? I would highly recommend that you and your architect sit down and look at our design guidelines and then our objective standards in the housing element, because we've pretty much we've written and we've verbalized what we're looking for architecture and design
Okay.
coming before the commission. So I would recommend you do that. I do have concerns about your floor plans. In type A, bedroom 2 doesn't have a window. And in type B, bedroom 3 doesn't have a window. And I'm pretty sure, Don, that their bedrooms are required to have windows? Yep, okay. So
Actually, they do, and I think that was an overlook of the plan, so we will.
they don't appear on the plans.
Okay.
And if you're gonna attach them, that's fine with us, but don't show us architecture for a wall that's gonna be attached, because
Okay.
it's not gonna be seen. So architecture on, if you attach them on all 4 sides of the building.
Okay.
Anything else on architectural elevations? Okay, a whole bunch. Oh, wait, Commissioner Hastings?
I was impressed with the size of those 2 big units and wondered how you came up with that logic of most of the rest of them being 1,200 square feet, and then you've got the 2,900 square foot ones.
You know,
Is that an appealing mix? I'm just not sure, you know.
there were 13 units that would be the maximum, units on that site.
Uh-huh.
Unless we asked for the density bonus, we didn't want to go there. Just wanted to keep it at 13. And the mixed units, we wanted to have for the family and maybe, just a couple. So we wanted to have variety on the units. That's why we have 2 of that side and 3 other sides. So basically, it was just having variety for the owner. So the rentability of the project would be, much more desirable if we have different sizes of units. Basically, that's the only reason.
Okay, and then I had similar comments to the other commissioners about windows. That it may be sort of a feature of Spanish architecture, but I feel there should be more windows in the,
Okay.
generally.
We'll go back and we'll address that
Okay.
next time.
Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, my comment is along the same line, but not just along East Vista Way. I think that all the units on the side should have a little more orchestration in them, whether it's windows, whether it's just an indented archway or whatever it might be, because some places you may not want to put windows because of its relationship to another unit. But I understand what you're saying about simple, but I think the sides are maybe a little too simple. So that's.
For next meeting, I will articulate all of all the facades for you to see.
Okay. Commissioner Looney?
Thank you. I spent a lot of time going through the plans, and there's some room for improvements. On sheet A2.1, this brought up earlier, but the sidewalls on units 4, 7, and 8 that face the street are completely void of any detail. And we need to get some architectural fenestration and/or window openings on there. I think you've also got to be careful of egress requirements, because you're showing some bedroom windows with iron rails on it. If those have a quick release on them, that's fine, but those, you got to have a means by getting out of those bedrooms. A2.2 and some of those other elevations, they are somewhat deceiving because you're showing them as an individual unit, and they're not portrayed as an individual unit on the site plan, other than Unit C, I think it is. Units 1, 2, and 3. Those are the only individual units. On A3, I'm not sure if you're trying to as we build, we want to make sure that we're getting good value for our dollar. Putting a 19-foot garage door is going to be very costly. And in one of the other plans, you have a 38-foot wide garage door. If you go in that direction, you're going to basically have an airport hangar or a hangar door. It gets very expensive. The roof plans, you've shown a roof plan on individual units, but you don't show the roof plans on the combined units. You're going to have some drainage issues. On units 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, and 11, and units 12 and 13. You've got a hip roof on the front, you got a gable roof on the back, but where these two come together, you need to show a roof plan that shows how
The
it
drainage.
works.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I show you. then.
Because
Show
right
this.
now, we have individual buildings.
Sure.
And that's not what the site plan shows. Unit B, this is sheet 831. It has no exposed side exterior walls, but yet you've shown them as an exterior sidewall. So your elevations don't match your floor plan.
Yep.
And there needs, in order for us to properly evaluate and to help you, we need to have accurate drawings. And
Sure.
we don't have those right now.
Okay.
Well, I'll leave it at that. But you have a 29-foot garage door. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But
We'll go back and
29-foot garage door,
break it
that's
up, yeah.
huge, so that doesn't work. I think you've got the beginnings of a decent project. Again, I think your site plan is strong, but the building and the architecture needs some attention, and it needs some design.
Okay.
So that's what I would leave you with.
Thank you for the comment. We'll address those and come back.
The last thing I wanted to talk about was landscaping and amenities. Did any of the commissioners have comments on landscape and amenities? Commissioner Savage?
It's me. Yeah, did you guys have plans for the current open landscape areas? I know you have listed them as public open and then landscape for the other three. Do those have intended use? Is there going to be any specialty items over there, picnic tables, things like that?
You know, both of those open spaces were meant for the residents to enjoy them. So we're going to have barbecue, and as you see, we have some benches over there and common, obviously landscape for sitting and enjoying the space. Basically, it's a common space for people together, maybe on Sunday, have barbecue, maybe sit around, and for the kids to play. That's basically what the amenity is for.
Yeah, and I was actually more thinking about the four corners of the lot. They're mentioned as landscape or public open space, not these spaces particularly.
Oh, you're talking about the ones that are on the both sides of the...
on the corners of the property, yeah.
I left that very plain, so maybe just an open space. If the kids want to play, they can just play. Because if let's say if they want to play soccer on the corner, they're able to do that on those corners, which is kind of empty. If somebody wants to go put a blanket and just lie down. And I think as opposed to very well-designed spaces, that would be kind of left over for the kids to enjoy. That was the intention of those spaces.
Okay, great. Just wanted to see what they're for. Thank you.
You haven't provided us with a full landscaping plan, so we kind of reserve judgment on that. And then you've got 3-bedroom units. I'm assuming there are going to be kids here. You need to provide some recreation facilities for them. So, that needs to be fleshed out. I'm going to propose something. I'd like to hear from the rest of the commissioners on how they feel about it. I think he needs to come back to EDR with the revisions that the items that we've talked about, and for us to see before he goes and puts together his public hearing package. So we'd like you to go make changes, work with staff, come back and show us what you've done. We'll go through another EDR for you, and then you can go design your project and submit for a public hearing. Okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Very good. All right, any other comments tonight? Oh, wait, Don?
No, it's just, when you come back with that package, I'd like for you to retain a civil engineer to do a proper grading plan.
Okay.
So we can begin to see how you're going to deal with these grades, with the grade changes. And also a site of this nature is going to require some bioretention basins. You know, how do we get rid of the drainage, the surface water? That takes up a lot of space depending upon the system that you designed. So
We actually do have it on the project, but I understand. We'll come back and.
okay.
If you look at the site plan, we do have 2 retainage on both sides on the lower end of the project to where it collects all the water and turbidity and then basically directs it into retentions on right and left, where it's going to be addressed in the water quality management in the future. But
Okay, because I don't see, is that on sheet A1? C2. Oh, it's on C2? Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I know the details are there. We need to see it where it is on the site, because that's going to impact your landscape.
Yeah, I'll show it on the site, but I understand. It is actually on the site plan.
Okay.
We'll come back and.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that we can make him come back here. I think that's just a strong recommendation that you come back before you apply. I don't think we can.
I concur with that comment that it sounds like it would be in the best interest of the applicant to do so, but we can't demand that he return for another EDR.
We'll make it a strong recommendation that he come back for another EDR review. Okay, any other comments on the project, commissioners? Student commissioners? Nope, very good. All right, back to our agenda and reports from the other commissioners. Any reports or comments from commissioners? Patsy, your report?
Thank you, Chairman Rossler. Just wanted to mention that looks like we'll be having a meeting on May 2nd. So just make sure, put that on your calendars. Might be 3 projects on that agenda, so another busy night. Then I just wanted to let you know that on April 11th, the smoke shop at 1745 East Vista Way was heard at City Council as it was an appeal hearing. It was approved as far as the denial of the appeal and approval of the project, with certain conditions added at that point. However, there is some discussion about some of the conditions that were added, or one in particular, which may prompt the project to come back to the Planning Commission, unfortunately. So there might be another visit before the commission, so more to come on that. And just a reminder, everybody, and to the public, to folks that are watching this, there is an April 25th discussion of the general plan update at City Council, so you're all invited to come to that. The meeting starts at 5:30, although I don't know the exact time when we'll actually be doing the discussion, but officially the meeting starts at 5:30. And we'll go over the results of the workshops. We'll be talking about what comes up next, and really providing an update to the City Council as to where we're at with the general plan update. That some of you have participated in the workshops, and staff appreciates that. And there's more meetings to come, so there'll be plenty more opportunities to come and participate. So we're excited about the general plan update, and hopefully you are too. And I think the chair is, because he just did this, so. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Anything else, commissioners?
Yes. It seems that the contractors for Taco Bell are still having some challenges. Could you give us an update on that?
I don't really have much more to add to that. It is something that we've keep asking as staff at our level anyways as to what's going on. It is beyond our control that I know of at this point, so we just have to keep pursuing it.
They
And what
were
about,
out working on the site this past week.
okay,
Yeah,
that's good. That's a
Yeah.
good sign.
yeah.
And what about Community Church on the corner of Civic Center and Vista Way? Have they applied for permits yet?
They have. They have been in plan check, and so they're pursuing their building permits, but as we know is tied up to the project that you just heard tonight. But they're moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Grimm?
I just had one more question too. Any update on the old gas station and car wash located at our favorite one at Warmlands and East Vista?
That's Michael's favorite project. And it's been in, there's some conversations with staff recently and submittal of the plans, adhering to some discussions that they had with the building official. So I know that's in the works, but they're still actively pursuing it.
Looking to do another gas station?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
John?
I probably missed this, but do we have any update? Did it go to city council, the 45 homes that were proposed over near North Coast Church on South Santa Fe? Did that make any progress with city council?
South Santa Fe, I'm trying to remember.
Well, North Santa Fe, I'm
North
sorry.
Santa Fe, okay. So the other side.
Yep.
Oh, the Camino
Yeah, the one
Largo.
we denied.
I think you're speaking of Camino Largo.
That's right.
I think I'll let Amanda speak on that one.
So subsequent to the city council's approval of that project, there was a writ filed in court from one of the opponents, one of the neighbors, and we're actively involved in that litigation at this point.
Wow.
Okay, good to know, thank you.
Wow. So more important for the guy on Lark Hill to show that he has easement access over Lark Hill. All right, if there's nothing further, we will stand adjourned till May 2nd. Thank you, Rick. You're welcome.